Isn't it something how we always seem to believe that the person we met, the one that crossed our paths in the most unexpected way, would be the one that would last forever? And how ignoring even the most smallest of signs could prove to be a mistake so huge until they leave you wondering were they even there? Today, the topic is centered around being in a relationship and the anxiety I developed because of it. Now, I'm sure a lot of you who are listening to my voice right now will be able to relate to my story in more ways than one. With this story that I have never told to anyone before until now, I am going to pick through the pieces that I feel are most beneficial, the pieces that could possibly help someone else who may be presently enduring the same situation or a similar battle. An abusive relationship can be emotionally, physically, financially, or sexually. They are geared toward the control or manipulation of the other person, and it becomes seriously toxic when you recognize that it is happening, but you continue to stay. And though I've endured mostly all of them at one time or another, this story is about emotional abuse. I was pretty young when we crossed paths, and he was to me the most beautiful specimen of a man that I had ever seen. Dating started off, as most do, seeing all the halos that glow in the beginning. What could possibly go wrong, huh? I noticed early on, and though I didn't really think much about it at all until later, that whenever something was bothering him, he would go silent. And no matter how an attempt was made to soothe the situation, he normally would not budge until he deemed it was time. What I did not know is that this form of behavior, the behavior that grew eventually to take on a life of his own, was indeed the silent treatment. Oh, yeah, the silent treatment. I didn't recognize that I was slowly being fed the real person in smaller doses. Once married, the signs that were so easy to ignore became huge problems. I was in a marriage with a seriously passive aggressive individual. There was an entire truckload of unwanted goodies handed out to me over the years in this relationship. Manipulations in the slickest of ways in order to get his way, no matter the situation. It's very easy for someone to hide who they really are deep down, especially when they're either needing you to help them with something or if they are intentionally grooming you to unknowingly become the person that you no longer recognize. He knew I loved him, and though he loved me too, I now know that he needed me more. To be there for someone while they find their way, while they grow, while they become the person they want to be in this world. That was what I did. I was there every step of the way. When there was nothing to hold on to, he held on to me because he knew I had his back. Whether a man or woman, I'm sure a lot of you can definitely relate to that. Throughout this process, there was hardly any bickering at all. You know, a person can be anything you want them to be, just so long as you're helping. They are overwhelmingly grateful until they don't need you anymore. And once the world becomes their oyster, they grow to become unrecognizable. Those little peaks of narcissistic behavior begin to take a front seat in a relationship. And the passive aggressive was so overbearing until his absence was something I looked forward to anxiously. At first, you're glad they're silent. You know, oh, okay, some quietness in the house. Maybe you can find some peace. After all, for me, a quiet home was always a happy home. We're always happy to see them leave when they act the way that they do. Maybe, finally I could breathe. Not knowing all the while that this behavior was about to affect me in more ways than one. The rush of blood through my flesh started to eventually happen. To put a name on what I was feeling was impossible at the time. All I knew was if he was around or heading home, my palms would start to sweat. My skin would begin to crawl. My breathing would be heavy and chopped. The feeling of uneasy would take over. Anxiety is what it was. The stress of this relationship had started to produce panic within my mind and my body. The smallest of situations would lead to nonverbal communication. That could go on for weeks. Some can only imagine being in the same home with someone who could actually shut down and avoid you at all costs, possibly for weeks, and you not even know the reason. And to ask would only get you a response such as, I'm cool, or I'm good. I'm sure a lot of you heard that before. In a home full of apparent disagreements and poorly orchestrated adult behavior, I could only accomplish joy when the abuser was away. You learn quickly to welcome any time away, whether it's going out of town to visit family or a simple trip to the groceries for egg and milk. You can't be choosing when you're walking on eggshells for fear of saying something or doing something that could possibly set your partner off. What a way to live, huh? Oh, I couldn't get to the phone quick enough when he called. My stop for food was longer than he expected. He made plans, and oh, for the love of God, I took sick. Don't take sick when they make plans. He had a way of using his passive behavior to get whatever he wanted out of me. To go silent intended to teach me. Even though most times I didn't even know what I could have possibly done, it was designed to teach me to never do it again. I was being controlled without realizing what was happening. You know, in situations that shouldn't have mattered and those that should have been met with understanding and love, most of them were met with treatment that no one deserves. There is no coming to an agreement, no understanding your reasoning when it comes to a person like this. It's their way or the highway. Don't expect them to change because they won't. All I knew was that the burdened down feeling of anxiety and panic that had taken over my mind and body had to go. I had to deal with the situation head on. Having to completely end a relationship with someone that you care so deeply for in order to renew my sanity was one of the hardest things that I have ever had to do in my life, but the most needed. Being in a relationship with someone who does not treat you the way you certainly deserve to be treated and refusing to let it go can become dangerous for you in more ways than one. You have to begin to show them that you do, in fact, have high regards for yourself, that you will no longer tolerate bad behavior that is certainly intended to break you down mentally. Stand up for what you believe in and be determined to regain your sanity, your smile, and your love for life, whether it's a partner, family, or friend. The longer you continue to keep these manipulating people in your life, the more they will attempt to control you. You are a wonderful being and you deserve better. Though it was the hardest thing, letting go, it was the absolute best thing. No more walking on eggshells, tiptoeing on pins and needles. I got my sanity back. My anxiety began to fade. I began to welcome a new day with open arms and a smile on my face. And this was every day. And I can honestly tell you, I had not done that in a long time. If you can relate and was able to remove yourself from a toxic and abusive relationship that caused you anxiety, leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you all so much for listening and have a good night.